Hi, I'm Teresa Lisum coming to you with my beautiful guest co-host, Jennifer Regular, and we're evolving women. I'm evolving, you're evolving, we're all evolving. Let's just help each other to evolve. And our intention here today, and with every episode, is to just offer the world and you uplifting messages, new perspectives, maybe plant some new seeds, offer you some tools, some resources, some wellness ideas, some mindset or self belief shifts. All of it laid out here for you to give you permission to be your best self and live your best life. So, welcome to Evolving Women. And welcome back, my delightful guest co host, Jennifer Regular. Welcome back, Jennifer. So glad you're here. And we started a conversation in a previous episode around the idea of beyond perfect, your personal evolution. So we're going to continue that conversation today. You're going to want to go back and check that previous episode because there was lots of juicy gems in there. But we thought we would start today chatting about messages we grew up with. And we might have been from a different generation a little bit. I know I'm older than you, Jennifer. I'm just going to own that. So I don't know how closely, what we grew up with, possibly the same, but possibly different. Um, and we alluded to this in the previous episode that society, family, friends, bombard us when we're growing up with expectations and limitations and boxes we're put into that we need to learn to break from. And it takes all of us a journey of evolution to learn to step outside that, or to learn to step inside us, I should say, and really follow our own voice, our own higher guidance, our own intuition. And so I'm going to turn the conversation back over to you, Jennifer, so you can share with me what your thoughts are about what we grow up with and how we kind of manage that or break free from that, we'll say.
Yeah. And you know what? You bring up a good point with age-related differences. Generationally, there may be some different words that are used, but also in different cultures, in different environments, in different religious belief scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
and all of those ways that matter, to us individually, and at the same time, collectively, may produce the same kind of feeling of feeling less than,
Mm-hmm.
of feeling not enough, of feeling unloved or unacceptable,
Yep.
or, dispirited is the word I
Yes.
like to use,
Yep.
because, well, it actually went back to my childhood. I had, I guess, a different kind of brain than many of my peers because I was thinking about the world in a different way. I was interested in humanity more than I was interested in the shopping mall, for example. I just had a
What?
different way of thinking and being in the world. And I would go on a lot of walks on my own, just exploring and discovering and thinking and contemplating about different
Mm.
things I was witnessing. And so at 10 years old, I started writing down these different observations
Wow.
because to me, I was noticing how society can actually determine our destiny, which is what you're alluding to in the
Mm-hmm.
introduction.
Yep. Yep.
And throughout the many years that followed, of course, I was growing up and learning more from my teachers and my peers and from myself and from church at the time, and then at
Mm-hmm.
different spiritual groups that I got to be a part of at different times in my life, having different elders and mentors and allies along the way. And also the adversaries, the people who kind of teach us different lessons,
Mm-hmm.
that aren't always so pleasant.
Right.
I was in a dysfunctional, abusive marriage, for example, that
Mm.
took apart everything I thought I was, and
Mm.
everything that I had. Actually, there was a lot of loss through that.
Mm.
all of the different ways that we experience the loss. And really what it came to, what I was able to write about actually, and then be able to publish, was a book called Embracing Your Power, a
Mm,
healing journal of self-discovery. And that was the true message that I wanted to share with people about taking that pilgrimage back into the heart space, about being able to embrace our power to choose our own destiny and to have the courage and the curiosity to do that, and the self-compassion of not beating ourselves up if we didn't get it right
hmm.
the first time,
Yeah.
and being able to keep our spirit intact became really important, because for over 20 years I was working in social services, different populations, federal offenders, homeless, addictions, mental
Mm,
health, and domestic violence, and so on, and all of the different ways I got to witness even more how we
mm.
become dispirited,
Wow.
how our souls get ruptured, and
Mm,
how we are continuously grasping for some sense of stability and security and sense of self. And so that's how I actually got really interested in spiritual wellness. And the costs of not engaging in soul care are so high, because I noticed myself and my colleagues in that type of work, and working with, helping professionals, health professionals, caregivers, and so on,
mm-hmm.
a lot of compassion fatigue, feeling
Mm,
exhausted, numb, resentful, angry, reacting to life instead of actually being able to embody life.
mm-hmm.
And some could go on that way and then end up on disability, like many of my
Mm-hmm.
colleagues, or on medication that
Mm-hmm.
myself and my colleagues had all gone on to, and many other people that I know in other types of jobs as well. But we can medicate and continue on,
Yes.
or we can learn other ways of actually taking care of our soul. And this goes beyond self-care, which, if you look at Maslow's um, pyramid, his hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
he's a
Yes.
psychologist,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
few decades ago, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
relevant today, where he talked about, the physiological needs, the love and belonging,
Mm-hmm.
self-esteem, and so on. And at the
Yes.
bottom of that triangle, they're actually deficiency needs that we're trying to be okay with, to find that sense of stability, and our basic needs that matter and are important. But then we get into the self-perpetuating model of not enoughness, that we
Mm-hmm.
have to do something to be able to kind of earn our way, or to
Right.
be, fit, and to be able to sleep enough, and to have a home, and to be able to pay the bills, and all of those things that are important, but not everything. Beyond that, higher up on the hierarchy, we talk about the aesthetic needs, the cognitive needs, the transcendence, and then at the very top, self-realization,
Mm-hmm.
self-actualization, like really coming to terms and accepting who we truly are, which I see as a spiritual being
Oh,
having
yes.
experience. And I
Yes.
know I'm not the first one to say
Well,
that,
well, now
but
that you mention it, yeah, you're right.
yeah,
That
we
is the
really
pinnacle
understand.
of that pyramid. Yes.
Yeah. And we really understand that, then it only makes sense to focus on our spiritual wellness and how to keep our spirit intact. And those higher level needs are related to our higher self as well. And there
Mm,
are growth needs. This is how we evolve and grow and become evolving women, or evolving human,
mm-hmm.
when we can continue on our self-realization journey and not get lost in other people's expectations and beliefs about who we are. And I'm sorry, I'm so passionate about this
Oh,
topic.
that's
I just went
fine.
on
Keep
rambling.
going. I love it. I
I'm going to
love your
pass it
passion.
over to you, Teresa.
No, I love your passion. I love what you're saying. I
Yeah.
love that you have shared with us the idea that that pyramid, the top of it is self-actualization. I mean, I could kind of see the pyramid in my head. It's easy to find. You just Google it.
Right.
And right at the top, self-actualization. And I remember taking psychology classes,
Yes.
and I did not think of spirituality at all
Mm.
at that point in time,
Mm.
because it's almost like a topic that nobody spoke about,
Mm.
almost like you don't want to rock that boat. It's like just stay away from it, kind of like the topic of politics or whatever,
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
religion
Mm.
had something to do with it, because we're not talking religion here. It has nothing to do with that. It's that spiritual divine essence that
Mhm.
we're all trying to get up to. And it doesn't have to wait. Like my mind is just going on its own here. It doesn't have to wait for us to achieve that, to have that soul care, as you call it, or that influence in our life. Does that make sense? Like we
Absolutely.
don't have to achieve this perfection
Right.
for it to guide us and be part of our lives, which it was when I was growing up, but yet it was defined in this very narrow focus, this
Uh,
very small box. And
mhm.
I had to grow beyond that and, learn on my own that it's so much bigger than what I grew up with.
Mm.
Um, so I hope that makes sense to you and to our listeners because it just sometimes, your mind goes off in these tangents and you don't know if you're really making sense or not to people. But thanks for pointing that out, that is a spiritual goal we want to achieve, but it doesn't have to be a one-time thing or you know, it could be just part of us, part of our lives now in the moment.
That's right. That's right. And it doesn't mean also that we get to the self-realization and not have to pay bills anymore or
Right,
take care of
right,
our
right.
homes, right? Like we're constantly going up and down this
Mhm.
pyramid. It's just to say that there's different levels of needs that we have and to
Mhm.
really build the capacity to take responsibility to meet those needs. And
Mhm.
that's where soul care comes in, or we can even think of it as sacred self-care. And I
Love
say
that.
sacred self-care because the word sacrifice, when you look at the etymology of it, actually came from making sacred, taking the
Mm.
time that we needed to tend to our needs, to tend to our loved ones, to tend to another, right? Of sacrificing,
Mhm.
so that those needs can be met. And making that sacred, having reverence for life, really honoring who we are, what we stand for, and how we're here to serve,
Mm.
being led on our soul path, and taking that soul care also means to focus on what we're consuming and how we're nourishing ourselves, the foods that we eat, the people that we hang out with, the work that we do, how we're spending our time, energy, and money.
Mhm.
Those are all ways that we can start tuning in to see how we're nourishing ourselves or if what we're taking in is nourishing us.
Right. Right.
There's this big movement I know in the like the nutrition world about loving the food that loves you back.
Mm.
Just because we might like something doesn't mean it's going to love us back in the same way.
Mhm.
And so it's about nourishment, and it's about being able to fill ourselves up with the things that we do love and that also serve us in a way that truly does fill us up. Caffeine, might be a high for a little while and it might taste great. And, you might get beyond the two sips. I know so many people who drink a cup of coffee because they're so tired, but only drink two sips and then it goes cold. But that's not premium fuel, right? The
Mhm.
premium fuel is what fills us up for and is more sustainable. It's like a
Mhm.
sustainable self-care kind of practice. Not necessarily a spiritual goal that you mentioned earlier, but like a practice. So it is something we're doing on a daily or regular basis, not something that we reach a high point of and then that's it.
Mhm.
We're there, we're
Right,
done,
right,
right? It's not a
right.
one and done kind of
Not
deal.
a one and done.
No.
It's a daily practice that
Yeah.
we
Do you
all
have any
can.
practices, Teresa, that you find nourishing?
Well, I do want to, before I go there, discernment keeps popping up in my
Ah,
head, like
mm-hmm.
learning to be discerning as to
Uh-huh.
what we're going to allow in and put our attention on, spend our money on, allow into our energy field,
Yeah.
allow into our brain.
Mhm.
Like it took me a while to learn to be discerning and understand that I'm the result of what I'm allowing in.
Yes.
And that's, I can see that as definitely soul care,
Yeah.
sacred self-care, having an awareness around what we're allowing in, who we're hanging out with, who we're spending time with and on. So I made some choices based on that understanding that I need to protect my space, my energy, my thoughts
Mm,
if I want to keep it on in a positive way and a positive mindset.
yeah.
And so I had to make some decisions that I had to cut out certain things, because I wanted to be at a certain place or think a certain way. And so I had to give up a particular, like, I'm just going to say TV is one that, like, I'm very discerning what I watch on TV or
Yeah.
what I read.
Mm,
Whereas in the past, it didn't matter to me.
mhm,
And now I have that understanding that, oh, yeah, no, like I need to protect my energy field and understand what's coming in or how it's affecting me.
mhm.
So, and I don't know where that was going, if that answered your question, but I think your question was, what do I do for my soul care? Was that the original question?
What nourishes you? Yeah.
What nourishes me, right?
Mhm,
So, what nourishes me is going outside, being in the sunshine, appreciating nature.
mm.
That to me, like right now, we had our first big snowfall
Yeah.
last night. So I'm looking at this beautiful white landscape, which is lovely, but I'm thinking like, oh, am I going to be able to get out later and do my nourishing, nurturing walk, which I love to do
Mm,
every day.
mhm,
And, what's the birds doing? Like they're at the bird feed, like all these things are going because I love that. I love being outside and I make it a point. I'm very intentional of making sure I have time for it.
mm.
So that's my big way of nurturing and nourishing myself, my mental self and my physical self.
Yes. And you know, when it feels good, you know how you feel when you're out there. So even if it's cold and snow up to here, you're still willing to go there because you know how good it feels when you do. And even just hearing that feels good. I'm just like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm there with you. I can feel it. I can experience it. Because
Mhm.
nature is a big one for me too. I think probably for a lot of us, it's so healing, so nourishing. It soothes the senses,
Yep.
especially with all the stimulation that goes on. It's a natural reset. And when
Yes.
when you get
Yes.
down to it, it's Mother Earth. It's
Mhm.
Mother Nature. It's our mother who raises us, takes care of us. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's so beautiful. And yeah, those are the ways: boundaries, discernment,
Mhm.
choosing, making those choices, going out in nature, being with the elements, allowing the sun to come in and being with the light, and
Mhm.
monitoring what's coming in through our senses and how we can kind of regulate that in our nervous systems as well. And, what self care practice might be like a soft, gentle exercise before bed, or sipping some
Mhm.
tea, or doing some kind of routine like breathing. And a soul care practice can be something as simple as putting a philodendron plant next to your bed that feeds you have this beautiful exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen going
Mm.
on and soothes you and resets you. And so even if you don't have access to much nature where you live, you can have a plant right beside your bed and it's nourishing you and helping you heal
Ooh, I
overnight
love
while
that.
you're sleeping, right? Or
Love
if you have it
that.
by your desk, if you're working at home, or even if you're allowed to bring it into your office, then
Mhm.
you have that desk there, or a Himalayan lamp, or you're
Mhm.
burning incense or sage, or having essential oils in the diffuser, or just
Mhm.
creating beauty all around you, no matter your circumstances. There's something you can do to beautify the space and enhance your surroundings. And that's
Mhm.
nourishing as well.
Yes.
Anything that's healing and supportive and that makes you feel kind of soft and calm and in your center and
Mhm.
settled and smiling and just connecting
And just
in life.
breathing, deep
Right. Just
breaths,
breathing. How much are we disconnected from our breath these days?
exactly, like you
Yeah.
don't realize you're not breathing at certain points because of
Yes.
tension or you're so caught up in your thoughts or yeah, so just deep breathing is a part of soul care for sure. Um,
Yeah.
and
And there's so much turmoil.
I'm
So
guessing you
much.
have a lot more
I
ideas
do.
around that.
Yeah.
So can you share with us what our listeners, our viewers can have access to give them some ideas?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what I was just going to mention because, with all this turmoil and turbulence and volatility that's going on in our world, we don't want to like completely shut it out. But like you said, we can regulate how much we take in of it from the news or TV or audio sources and so on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's the practice of finding solace in everyday life that we
Mm,
can start to develop and build a capacity for. And there's a guide that I'd love to offer everyone watching that's completely free. It's complimentary. There's no catch. Just download it. And it's a guide to soul care and finding solace in everyday life. And if you're in a profession like one that I had where you're dealing with people all of the time that may be draining sometimes of your energy and
mm-hmm.
so on
Yep.
there and suffering from compassion fatigue, then there's ways that we can alleviate the effects of that. And so there's also a guide there for cultivating resilience and alleviating
Mm,
some of those effects of compassion fatigue. So I'd like to offer that, and in there you'll find out a lot more of what we're talking about, different strategies and practices you can use to develop your capacity to do what's most nourishing for you.
love that. Thank you so much for your generous offer. And I'll put a link to that in the description that goes
Mhm.
along with this episode. So make sure you go and grab that. And I'm going to invite you once you do that, or just based on some of the suggestions we spoke about here in the last few minutes, decide for yourselves what is one thing you can do to nurture your soul, today, by the end of the day, or within the next 48 hours. Pick one thing that you could do. And just what you're doing right there, Jennifer, just,
Yeah.
having compassion by putting your hands on your heart and thanking yourself,
Mhm.
or just sitting with yourself. I mean, something as simple as that,
Mhm.
I consider self-care and a sacred, uh, just a gesture, I guess. I'm trying to think of a better word, but to acknowledge your sacredness and your heart. And so just something what you just did. But I'm going to invite our viewers and our listeners just to decide on one thing that you can add to your daily practice, because it is a practice. Like we said, it's not a one done and over with, it's a continual journey. And you can change it, you can bring in more things. There's always, you're not tied to one way of doing anything. So thank you so much for all of your wisdom again that you shared with us. Thank you for sharing your guide to soul self-care. And I really hope that our viewers and listeners take you up on that, because I know I'm going to do it.
Yay.
I'm going to go grab it. So thank you so much for being here, Jennifer. So appreciate you and your time and your wisdom and your insights. Thank you for sharing them with us. And we thank everyone who's watching this episode. Thank you for being here with us. We
Thank you.
appreciate you and we love you. Thank you much. Bye-bye.